If you want to score highly in the IELTS exam, it's important to know as much advanced vocabulary as possible. In this video, you'll learn 44 advanced words and phrases to help you in all areas of the IELTS exam. If you are going to take your IELTS soon, check out my IELTS materials. There, I teach you everything you need to score high. I show you step by step how to give high scoring answers, and of course we do many practice tests together so you will feel confident for your test. You can find the link to the IELTS materials in the description box. Now take a paper and pen. For each word you know, you get 1 point. Comment below how many you know. For example, 15, 30 or 44. Let's get started. We're going to start with some key vocabulary that you might come across in the IELTS reading test. It's important you know these words because you need them to understand the passages and questions. Our first word on the list is the verb imply. This is a synonym for suggest. When you read this in a text, it tells you that some information or an idea was not directly or explicitly mentioned. For example, the research implies that too much screen time before bed directly causes sleep problems. You may see this word in some of the IELTS reading questions, as well as the passages. Word number 2 is the verb infer. This is the opinion we form or the guess we make after reading some information. Let's see an example. From the drop in fox populations observed over the past 10 years, scientists infer that habitat loss is the most likely contributing factor. In this case, scientists have some information about fox population and habitat loss. Using this information, they are then reaching the conclusion that habitat loss is contributing to the decline in the population of foxes. This is a verb that you can often see in the passive too. For example, it can be inferred that safety is one of the key considerations people have when moving to a new city. The next word is the verb underscore. This is similar to highlight. For example, we might say, the statistics underscore the importance of strength training in old age. Let's imagine that the reading passage has presented you with some statistics about this topic. The statistics tell us that fewer people over the age of 60 who do strength training have health issues. This means that the statistics highlight or draw attention to the fact that strength training is important. Word number 4 is the adjective prevalent. This is an advanced and formal way of saying common or frequently occurring or existing. Let's have a look at that in a sentence. Cases of environmental damage are much more prevalent today than 10 years ago. The next word is the noun ramification. This is an excellent word which means consequence or result. It usually has a negative connotation. For instance, schools are doing their best to deal with the ramifications of remote learning that occurred during the pandemic, such as the decrease in literacy and verbal communication skills. Word number 6 is give rise to. This means to cause or lead to something. Let's take a look at an example. More female interest in coding and programming in recent years has given rise to new online courses just for women. Next up is the word stem from, meaning to come or originate from. Let's have a look at what that looks like in a sentence. According to recent medical studies, health issues such as obesity and heart disease stem from poor dietary habits and an inactive lifestyle. Here I am saying that the causes of these health problems are dietary habits and an inactive lifestyle. Word number 8 is a contentious issue. This is a really great combination of words that is commonly used in texts. It means an issue that is likely to cause disagreements or arguments. For instance, we could say, for many years, the issue of teaching politics in schools has been a contentious one. So we understand that not everyone would agree with teaching politics in schools. It is likely to cause arguments and division of opinions between people. Now, we'll move on to vocabulary that often appears in the IELTS listening exam. Pay attention. It's super important you know these words so you can score high in IELTS listening. In some parts of the listening exam, it's vital that you know how to identify what the speaker's opinions are. Sometimes they'll state that more directly using a phrase like, in my opinion, or personally, I think. However, there are some more advanced phrases that can also indicate opinions. It's good to listen out for these too. The first of those is, I'm on the fence. This is used when you are undecided between two, usually opposing opinions or choices. For example, I'm on the fence about whether to accept the job offer overseas. It's a great opportunity, but I'd have to leave my family and friends behind. Another phrase used to give an opinion about a topic is, to the best of my knowledge. We often use it when we think something is true, but we are not entirely sure. But from the knowledge we have, we can give our thoughts on it. Let's see that in an example. To the best of my knowledge, the library closes at 8 p.m., but you might want to double check in case they've changed the hours. Word number 11 is the phrase, frankly speaking. This might be said at the beginning of a sentence to signal an opinion. It also tells us that the speaker is going to be very honest and perhaps direct when giving his opinion. For instance, frankly speaking, I don't think the new policy will make much of a difference. It's just unrealistic and silly. Next up is the phrase, I beg to differ. This is a way of strongly disagreeing with someone or with an idea. Let's have a look at that in context. I think remote working makes employees less productive. There are way too many distractions at home. I beg to differ. In my experience, I actually get more done when I work remotely. In the IELTS listening exam, sometimes the speaker will say something, which at first seems to be the correct answer to the question. Then they will change what they say, which often turns out to be the correct answer, and not actually the first thing that they said. This can be confusing, so it's useful to listen out for some phrases that indicate a change of or contrast in ideas. The first of those phrases is, come to think of it. This is used when we reconsider or realize something in the middle of our sentence or as we are speaking. So we could say, I think learning a second language is just a nice skill to have, but not that essential. Actually, come to think of it, knowing another language can make traveling much easier. Word number 14 is the phrase on second thought. This is used in a similar way, showing that we are thinking for a second time about what we said because we actually think something different or have realized some information. For instance, I was planning to take the train because it's cheap. On second thought, flying might be a better option because it's a lot quicker, and I don't want to spend loads of time traveling. Another phrase we might hear when someone changes their opinion or offers a contrast is, that being said. For example, there are a lot of pros to living in a big city, like better job opportunities and better public transport. That being said, it usually comes with a higher cost of living. And finally, one more phrase we might hear to indicate a contrast or reconsideration of ideas is, mind you. Let's take a look at an example. We get some nice warm weather here, even in the winter. Mind you, it can get kind of chilly at night, so it's good to bring a jacket just in case. Now, let's talk about the IELTS writing test. To get a high band score, you must use advanced vocabulary in both IELTS Writing Task 1 and Task 2. In the following, you will learn high-scoring vocabulary that you can use in your IELTS writing test. In Writing Task 1, you will be asked to describe trends of charts and graphs. It's important that you use some high-level vocabulary to refer to these trends. One great word for that is surge. This word describes a sharp increase. It can be used as a noun or as a verb. Let's see a few examples. There tends to be a sudden surge of social media use from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Social media use surges by 40% in the evening. The next word that is useful in writing part 1 is the verb dwindle. This means to decline gradually. Let's see an example of that. The town's population dwindled from 2007 onwards. Next up is hover around. This describes small fluctuations within a range or period of time. This means that there may be some small changes, with the numbers increasing and decreasing slightly, but not noticeably. For example, the unemployment rate hovered around 5% from 2008 to 2010. Word number 20 is peak around, which describes the highest point of a trend. For instance, the number of visitors to the museum peaked around 400,000 in July. It's also possible to say peak at. The price of tickets peaked at 85 euros in the winter months. By the way, if you want more IELTS vocabulary, hit the like button and write yes in the comments. If you want something else, tell me your video wish in the comments so I know what you would like to see on this channel. In many formal and academic texts, the purpose is to present ideas or arguments about a topic. Now, we will explore some wonderful advanced phrases that can be used to do this, mostly used in writing task 2. The first one is a fundamental aspect of. Here, the adjective fundamental means necessary or more important than other things. For instance, I could write, a fundamental aspect of personal development is education, as learning new skills and knowledge helps us to grow. Another way to present an idea or issue is by using the phrase, the crux of the issue is. Crux is a really advanced word that refers to the most serious or important part of something. Let's see an example. The crux of the issue is whether technological advancements increase productivity or simply create more distractions. Finally, you can also present an idea or argument with the next phrase, a matter of debate is. We could write, a matter of debate is how governments should allocate their spending budget. When writing your answer in IELTS Writing Task 2, you also need to add new ideas or extend your ideas further by adding more information. Let's have a look at some helpful phrases for adding ideas. The first one is in the same vein. This can be used when we want to add another point, which is similar to the one we have just mentioned. For example, it is well known that regular exercise improves mental well-being by reducing stress and anxiety. In the same vein, sticking to a balanced diet has been proven to be beneficial for overall mental health. Word number 25 is the phrase, it is also worth noting that. Let's see how we can use this in a sentence to add an idea. It is also worth noting that the production of electric car batteries has its own environmental impact. We often need to present contrasting ideas too. The next two amazing phrases can allow you to do this while showing off your advanced vocabulary. First up is contrary to popular belief. Another way of saying this is despite what most people believe. Let's see an example. Contrary to popular belief, increased urbanization does not always lead to a decline in community togetherness. So this means that despite most people believing that increased urbanization makes community togetherness decline, this is not actually true. The next one is in stark contrast. This indicates an extreme contrast or difference. For instance, many developed countries have successfully implemented renewable energy sources. In stark contrast, some developing nations still rely heavily on fossil fuels. Word number 28 is the adjective paramount. This means more important than other things. It's a great word to use in your writing to show that you know more advanced vocabulary and to ensure that you don't repeat more simple words like important or essential. For example, when addressing climate change, it is paramount that governments implement sustainable policies. Another useful adjective is aforementioned. This is very formal and advanced, which is excellent for an essay. It means previously mentioned. So it's really useful when referring back to things you have written about in previous paragraphs or sentences. When marking your answer, the IELTS examiner will use several categories to determine your English level. Two of these categories are lexical resource and coherence and cohesion. Lexical resource refers to the range of vocabulary you use. Coherence and cohesion refers to how well your ideas are connected. If you use aforementioned, this improves both your lexical resource and your coherence and cohesion band scores because it is an advanced word and ensures your ideas are well connected. Let's take a look at an example. The aforementioned challenges, including rising housing costs and overcrowding, underscore the importance of city planning. Aforementioned is commonly used in a concluding sentence or paragraph. Here we can imagine that throughout my essay, I wrote about these challenges, rising housing costs and overcrowding, and now I want to mention them again in order to conclude my essay. Word number 30 is the useful verb perpetuate. This means to cause something to continue. For example, the lack of access to quality education in disadvantaged communities perpetuates the cycle of poverty. Next up is the verb engender. This means to cause something to happen. For instance, these types of policies are likely to engender social and political unrest. The next word on the list is the verb culminate in, which means to result in. Let's take a look at an example. Decades of research in this area culminated in a groundbreaking discovery that changed the industry forever. And last but not least, here are some advanced words and phrases that you can use in your IELTS speaking test. To score high in IELTS speaking, you must use advanced vocabulary, so make sure you memorize these words before your IELTS speaking test. We're going to look at some words and phrases for giving opinions, starting with the adverb admittedly. You can use this at the beginning of a sentence when you want to talk about a weakness of yours, like, admittedly, I don't exercise as much as I probably should nowadays, but I do go out for a walk every day. Sometimes we want to acknowledge that someone's idea or argument is understandable while still presenting our own opinions. A great phrase for this is a fair point. In speaking part 3, that might look like this. Some people say that online shopping is going to completely replace physical shops in the future due to convenience. Do you agree? That's a fair point. I can see why some people prefer online shopping, but I still think physical stores have their advantages, like being able to see and try products before buying. When you don't have a strong preference for one thing or another, but just slightly prefer one of those things, you can use the phrase lean towards. Let's take a look at an example. I wouldn't say I'm completely against fast food, but I definitely lean towards home-cooked meals because they're healthier. When you want to soften your opinion and make it clear that your agreement or disagreement is not extreme, you can use the phrase, I wouldn't go as far as to say that. For example, I wouldn't go as far as to say that social media is completely harmful, but I do think it can have a negative impact if people overuse it. There are occasions in the speaking exam that you might not have many ideas. In this case, you can just say the first idea that comes to mind. When doing this, it's great to use the amazing phrase off the top of my head. For instance, off the top of my head, I'd say London is one of the most exciting cities to visit, but I'd probably need to think about it more to give a definite answer. This allows you to give an immediate answer, even though you don't have much time to think, and it still sounds natural and advanced. On the other hand, you might need a few seconds to think and generate some ideas. To make sure the examiner knows you are doing this, you can use the phrase, gather my thoughts. This is better than hesitating or sitting in silence, because then the IELTS speaking examiner may think you can't answer the question. For example, you can say, that's a great question. Let me just gather my thoughts. Okay, I think one huge advantage of remote work is the flexibility it offers. It's absolutely crucial that you give examples in the IELTS speaking test. A more advanced way of doing this is by using take for example. So you could say, cultural traditions play an important role in preserving national identity. Take festivals, for example. Events like Chinese New Year or Diwali bring communities together. So as you can see, we put the example we want to give directly after the word take. The next word on the list is the phrasal verb come up with. This is such a common yet advanced word that means to generate or think of, usually used when talking about an idea. For example, Creative people can always come up with innovative solutions to problems. We commonly follow this phrasal verb with nouns like idea, solution, and plan. Word number 41 is point out. This is great for highlighting or clarifying something. Let's see a sentence where this phrasal verb is used to mean clarify a misunderstanding. Some people believe that all fats are unhealthy, but nutritionists point out that healthy fats, like those in nuts and avocados, are essential for a balanced diet. And here's a sentence where it has the meaning of highlight. Many educators point out that more interactive teaching approaches, like project-based learning, should be encouraged. Next up is figure out, which means to start to understand something. Let's see an example. When I moved to Spain, I had to figure out how to use the public transport system, which was significantly different from my home country. Last but not least, you often need to finish longer answers in the IELTS speaking exam with a concluding sentence. One sentence you could use for this is, it all comes down to. This phrase not only summarizes your point, but also focuses on the key aspect of something. For instance, different people have different learning styles, but it all comes down to motivation. If you're truly interested in a subject, you'll be able to master it. In this case, the most important thing when studying something is having motivation to do so. Our final vocabulary item on the list is at the end of the day. This is another excellent way to sum up our ideas, not to mention the fact that it's used really often in natural speech. Let's take a look at an example of that. At the end of the day, success isn't just about talent or luck. It's about hard work and seizing opportunities that come your way. We're done. That's 44 advanced words and phrases you need to know to score high on the IELTS. I hope you guys liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their IELTS score too. See you in the next video!